Hello and welcome to the show. Well, the market continues to slow. It's Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic will join me in just a moment. Outsourcing will dramatically improve your productivity and profitability. Sure Agents have created a staffing solution to provide great staff who can perform duties in property management, sales, marketing and administration, and at a fraction of the cost, giving you and the team more time to spend on the dollar productive tasks. With rising costs and slowing revenue, the focus must be on value for money. Check it out, sureagents.com. Yes, the market certainly is continuing to slow, and Kevin Brogan joins me to have a look at that. Kevin, you'd almost have to say that the auction market has stalled.
Yeah, look, I think there's no doubt that the coronavirus situation is now contributing to the lack of listings for auction. But it's also worth noting that as Saturday is Anzac Day, it was probably a day that was going to be avoided for auctions in any event. Yep. So the net result is a very light schedule for the coming week.
But let's have a look at those final stats for last week. Once again, the weighted average across the nation about 30%, Sydney 33.8, Melbourne 27.9, Adelaide 30%, Canberra 53.7, and Brisbane 18.8. Yeah, pretty sobering, Kevin.
Oh, look, it is. I think all of the capital cities have been affected, obviously, by the coronavirus situation. But I think the one thing I've noticed that Canberra does seem to have been a bit more resilient than some of the other markets. It's for the last couple of weeks been returning a higher clearance rate, albeit way down on where it was prior to the coronavirus situation.
We're going to have a look in just a moment at the number of properties that are currently on the market. An interesting story there, and also how long it's taken to sell properties. But before we do that, let's have a quick look at the auction numbers for this coming weekend. And as you pointed out, Kevin, it is Anzac Day tomorrow, Saturday. So these numbers were expected to be a bit low. Sydney 152, Melbourne 89. The only two cap cities I think really worth noting at this point.
Oh, look, that's right. So it was always going to be a quiet weekend just because of the way that Anzac Day has fallen this year. But obviously, you factor in now the fact that at the time that these properties were, the owners were looking at listing them, we were sort of at a point where the coronavirus had really increased in its impact on the market, and so we're probably going to see a continuing trend of lower listings, particularly for auction, but overall.
Okay, well, new properties or listed properties for sale year on year, a pretty big drop this time last year. And it's something we probably can measure against because I don't think there's anything extraordinary happening this time last year, but down almost 32%, Kevin.
Yeah, look, that's right. And I think when you look across the capital cities, every capital city is showing a significant reduction. Darwin and Perth, as we've mentioned before, have had some fairly challenging market conditions for a little while, and they're particularly feeling lower new listings. Important to note that we're comparing to this time last year, and we're just about the point in 2019 where the market started to pick up. It was obviously the federal election in the middle of May that actually was the impetus. So I suspect as we move into May, we'll probably see the gap widen even further as the 2019 figures reflect that increase in market confidence.
Yeah, I guess
the exact opposite of the situation now.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin. I guess it also depends how long we're going to stay in this lockdown as well. Restricted trading and so on. And that doesn't show any signs of loosening up anytime soon. Let's go to our final graphic for this report, and that is days on market. Probably, if anything, if we can pull something good out of this show, these numbers are showing that properties are selling a little bit faster. And being discounted.
Yeah, look, I think the story with time and market on discount is a lot of the transactions that are going through at the moment are where both parties are really quite motivated to get it done because of the sense of uncertainty. I think, again, as we watch these numbers moving forwards, we will probably start to see, purchasers maybe just holding back and deferring a decision, which might see these start to edge out and increase so that properties are taking longer. And also, if there are any vendors who feel that they need to sell in these conditions, they may be more likely to depart from their initial asking price.
Oh, we can see on the screen there those vendor discounting levels averaging around 2 to 3%. What's the norm? I mean, they're all down, so there's no one part of the market that's suffering more than any other. But what's the norm, Kevin? Is there a norm?
Look, I think that the sort of figures that we're seeing here, I mean, obviously we're in extraordinary times, but the sorts of figures we're seeing here where there is, below 5% vendor discount is pretty normal, because you're moving the benchmark, I suppose, because it really is about the confidence of the vendor. A vendor's always going to pitch an asking price higher than the level that they're prepared to accept. And we're sort of measuring against that vendor expectation. And I think as we see the market soften, we'll see the vendor discount increase. But then as vendor expectations match the market, you see the vendor expectations coming down as well. Perth and Darwin, when the markets were really soft, we're seeing above 7%, and that's a sign of a buyer's market.
Mm. Yeah, good intel there. Okay, well, just before we go, looking at the auction numbers coming up for the week ahead, once again reminding you that the weekend is the Anzac weekend, of course. Sydney 152, Melbourne 89, Brisbane 30, Northern Territory 2, Adelaide 11, Perth 7, Canberra 25. So Kevin Brogan will come back and join me on Monday. We'll have a look at the first lot of results out of the week's activities. Kevin, thanks very much for your time and your very good insight, and look forward to talking to you on Monday.
No problem at all, Kevin. Speak to you then.